Following the death of King Mzilikazi in 1868, King Lobengula took the reins from his father, who had guided the Ndebele people as they journeyed from KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa around 1821. King Lobengula set up his first capital in 1870 and initially named it Gibiqheku. He later renamed it Bulawayo. This became his habitat until 1881. These building blocks later grew to become a big city of repute, which acquired municipal status in 1897 in the then Rhodesia. This is the place that has grown to be known as the City of Kings, Bulawayo. Located at a vantage point in the sub-Saharan region, Bulawayo forms the axis of a well-planned road and rail network to the north, south, east and west of Zimbabwe. The first train arrived in Bulawayo in 1897, with the early colonial settlers using the region's immense natural wealth to turn Bulawayo into a boom town as it grew to become an important industrial hub of southern Rhodesia, now called Zimbabwe. The arrival of the railway system in 1897 made it the country's major center for mining, ranching and industrial activity. Many heavy industries were located in the town that became a gateway to southern Africa, linking the north and south through a rail and road network. For a long time, Bulawayo remained the country's commercial capital, while Harare was the seat of government.
Bulawayo used to be a place where you were guaranteed that, for instance, the National Railways of Zimbabwe, its headquarters is here in Bulawayo. So for any bulk movements of goods, it was the National Railways of Zimbabwe that took care of that. And if you look at, even in terms of employment, from the National Railways of Zimbabwe, it used to employ as much as 12,000 people. It had a lot of houses that were in suburbs like, for instance, Sizinda. You also had, for the management, some of the houses in Khumalo and the like. So bulk goods movement, I think NRZ used to, it has got an installed capacity of about 18 million tons of goods that it could move in any 1 year. And then with 12,000 workers, I think that was around 1990, 1992. That was a lot of people that were working for the National Railways of Zimbabwe. But then again, there were also interlinkages that would come courtesy of National Railways of Zimbabwe. For instance, the goods movement of coal and the like from Hwange Colliery to various parts of the country came through Bulawayo as well. So Bulawayo was not only the industrial hub, but it was also the transport hub within Zimbabwe itself. So what you'll find that is that even steel that came from Zisco, it will be processed, come through Bulawayo and the like, going to various places. So Bulawayo used to be a beneficiary also of Zisco Steel when it was still in operation, because the downstream industry, which is, for instance, your Lancashire Steel and other foundries, are all based here in Bulawayo. So that is what kept the Bulawayo economy running. If you look at CSC, for instance, cold storage company itself, it was located here in Bulawayo, being a parastatal established in about 1938. It ran the Rhodesian economy very well. It also ran into Zimbabwe very well, and they used to slaughter quite a lot of beasts and provided employment to over 5,500 people. They used to export to as much as Europe and the like. So that brought in the much needed foreign currency into the country, and all those workers that we're talking about are some part of the beneficiaries of the industry that was running here in Bulawayo. But then again, Bulawayo is very well known for its textile industries. Most of the textiles were produced here in Bulawayo. You can mention, I think, even your towels. Anyone who didn't have a Merlin towel everyone would have a Merlin towel just to show the production trends that were here in Bulawayo, your spinning and weaving industries that were here in Bulawayo. All the clothes that were being made were all here in Bulawayo. There are issues to do with, for instance, what was called the Export Revolving Fund. That was a World Bank initiative which prioritized the manufacturing sector of Bulawayo. That kept the industries of Bulawayo running, and that also led to the subsidies that were there for various components of the production systems. So that is those are some of the things that made Bulawayo tick.
Bulawayo attained city status in 1943, with the local authority being the first in southern Rhodesia to establish a viable African advisory board, and went further to be the first to establish home ownership schemes for Africans. It was the first to embark on a planned program of water supply, the first to provide educational facilities before there was any national policy or the subject, and led in having a progressive low-cost housing program and a comprehensive social development blueprint.
We've got a road network of approximately 2,100 kilometers, broken down as follows: 1,500 being silt roads or surfaced or tarred roads, the other 400 being gravel roads, and the 100 being earth roads. Earth roads, we just form the roads on the existing in situ soil, we form and shape, and then on gravel roads we form and then we dump an imported layer of gravel. Silt roads is where they are surfaced, can be tar, blacktop, or other pavers or concrete, but most of the roads that we have here in Bulawayo, they are surfaced by tar. The network during the inflation era also suffered some neglect in terms, so it resulted in a backlog in terms of maintenance. So in general, the greater part of our network is not in good condition. A study which was carried in 2013 approximated about 70% of our network being in poor or very poor condition. So with that in mind, it means a lot. We have a lot of work to do, and we've not been sitting on our laurels at the same time.
We've had a number of international banks coming to our aid in an effort to increase to meet the water demand as it were. We have had to get assistance from international banks, and they've come to our aid. So far, with projects that have involved the pumping system, which has been renewed. We have had 2 pumps that have been put up in at Ngema, where we have had efforts, as it were, to improve our pumping system. We've also had assistance from what we call Bowser, which is called the Bulawayo Water and Sewer Development Project.
With a lot of strong linkages through partnerships and twinning arrangements with other cities, which has acted as groundwork to make the city thrive, expectations are that various players can come together to make the venture a success. Before the collapse of Zimbabwe's rail infrastructure as a result of illegal economic sanctions induced by the United States and its allies, Bulawayo was an important transport hub, providing rail links between Botswana, South Africa and Zambia, and promoting the city's development as a major industrial center. The city still contains much of what remains of the country's heavy industry and food processing capability. Today, Bulawayo is one of the country's most attractive cities, with a pleasing mixture of Victorian and modern architecture, which gives it a unique character. From a tourist point of view, Bulawayo has a lot to offer, either from within itself or around it. The City of Kings, as it is affectionately known, is the gateway to the famous Hwange National Park, the Victoria Falls, which is one of the wonders of the world, Kame Ruins, the Matobo National Park, and Matobo Hills, where King Mzilikazi was buried. Bulawayo is endowed with a rich culture and tradition that has a story to tell.
Mele sibonge lo onguyena owadabula uBulawayo. Siqala ngaye umzilikazi ichoba elinganguyise Machubana okangulo kaMangede Kalanga. Sibonga yena owalukudla umlenze kwaBulawayo. Sibonga yena othwase ngonyokana kaMpeyana. Sibonga yena esithi nxa simkhumbula sithi utshani bude mahalehale kabuthi nakutsha bodwa mhlazana buchaye bokutsha nemicha yamadoda, ngoba enguyena owasilwela wade wasiletha kule ndawo, kanti laye owamawaba kasimchiyi ungwalongwalo ngenxa yalezo ngwalo azibhalabhalayo. Sibonga yena omadola bomvu ngokuqengazini zezizwe nezabafowabo. Sibonga yena esimazi ukuthi nguye owasilethela ishwa elokuthi ahambe singazi lokuthi ulele ngaphi. Ngulobhengula lo. Bese sithi kuye umthwakazi wonke nje sithi hayi lina libahle, hayi ngokuba lenzwe laba bahle kodwa ngoba livele libahle, ubuhle buphakathi kwenu. Asihlale sinjalo, sizikhumbule thina njalo sicubungule siyegebha imbali yethu sichathekele abasakhulayo ukuze bazi ukuthi sasingabantu kuthanga, sisengabantu lakathesi, bazathi befika abasemazwaneni basithole singabantu.
Calls have been made for the full utilization and showcasing of these traditions and cultures that have a potential to improve the city's tourism economy. From just one African township in 1894, Bulawayo today has more than 16 townships in the western suburbs, with a lot of history being carried by not only the names of the suburbs but their placement as well. A lot of construction work by different companies has resulted in the spruiting up of various neatly laid out suburbs in Bulawayo.
When we look at Bulawayo, yes, in terms of the economic growth and also industrialization, we do have a few challenges. But when we look at social development in terms of housing, we are glad that we continue to grow. The city does service new areas for housing development. We are currently hoping to go on to Mahachula East, and there's some projects that are ongoing in Magwegwe, Luveve, Pumula. So as Bulawayo, we are grateful that we are able to continue to provide land for housing, but our desire and also looking at the economic factors, it would be ideal to provide housing, especially for vulnerable people or community in terms of costing. We are also grateful for the provision of social amenities such as youth centers, because when we look at the youth, firstly, the youth are the future, and also the youth have a lot of energy and potential. So in this housing or youth centers, our desire is that there be skills with different social skills and life skills and livelihoods. So we partner with different organizations to run youth programs. We also have schools as a local authority, and also the municipality runs clinics. These are all run at affordable and quality prices.
Bulawayo's first African township to be built was the location of Makokoba, as it is presently known. For nearly 35 years, Makokoba was the only township for Africans in Bulawayo. In 1931, the Southern Rhodesian government of Sir Humphrey Huggins built the Luveve African village, to be followed by Mzilikazi, that was named after the late Ndebele leader King Mzilikazi Khumalo, who died in 1868, and his remains were interred in a cave on Entumbane Hill in Matobo National Park. Unlike Luveve, which is situated far from Bulawayo, Mzilikazi township is close to town and to Makokoba in particular. It is generally observed that the Bulawayo City Council had a policy of documenting Ndebele history through the naming of townships, streets in the townships, and names of beer halls.
Culturally, that affects then the way with an express who we are. We then bring out what we think. We also then bring out what we value and what we decry. I will see within the streets of Bulawayo, the naming of the streets is in itself cultural. Be it in the eastern suburbs or in the western suburbs, every street name tells a little bit about the history of Bulawayo. You go to Northern today and you look at all those names of the streets in Northern, and you quickly understand that Jews were in this place. And you go to Kumalo, and then you certainly feel, okay, there were the Scots in this place. And wherever you go, you see that. And when you come down now to the naming of the townships, it's not haphazard. It's not an issue of a name for the sake of a name, but it is a name so that it can capture a memory. It's a name so that it can point you out to some historical value. A name so that it can direct you to something that is new. Even the latest suburbs. I go to Selborne Park today, and you walk there and you see the names of animals. And these names of animals are not just mere names, but they are names that link you to a particular people. They are in themselves totemic. They are in themselves indicative of an ancestry, of a people that were close to nature, a people that are actually intertwined with the world of the either be it the flora as well as the fauna around them. So to me, when you say culturally, what do I think of Bulawayo? I actually see Bulawayo as an example of how to understand a people's cultural development.
Magwegwe was the son of Ungazana, the son of Umgichima, and they belonged to the Fuyana family. Already there was Umapisa Fuyana, who was the chief of Isizinda. So it was him who was then appointed to be the Induna Yezinduna go Bulawayo, the old Bulawayo today, or Enyogeni, or Entenjaneni. That's Machobana. Machobana, remember, is the man, King Mziliga's father, who was killed on the instructions of King Zwide Galanga, and then had his arm amputated, and later would hear that a leopard used to appear, a three-legged leopard, which symbolized Machoban. That's another township that we find in Bulawayo. Chabalala was, one person was called Fulata Chabalala. Ogamabindela Chabalala was the mother of King Lopengula. Remember, when they left, or when Mwaga Nxumalo, who was the senior queen for King Mzilikazi, came to be married by the king, they gave her Usomthanyelo or Usomthanyelwana, and that Usomthanyelwana was Fulata. Fulata because she was born leg first, or such people born in that manner may also be called Nyovane. In other words, they emerged near reversed, whereas most of us emerged from our mothers head first. So that's one of those townships built towards, I think, the time of independence. That's Nkulumane. It's named after Prince Nkulumane. Mother was Umwaga, who was Nxumalo. Yeah, Nguboyenja is named after one of the princes, King Lopengula's son. Mother Nguchwapa or Gondiweni, and Nguboyenja becomes one of the three brothers at the collapse of the Ndebele state who were taken out ostensibly to be given some education in the Cape Province. That's Cecil John Rhodes' shenanigans. But really, the real reason was to make sure there was no revival, no resuscitation of the Ndebele monarchy.
Many structures within Mzilikazi Township were named after King Mzilikazi, such as Mzilikazi Primary School, Mzilikazi Memorial Library, Mzilikazi High School, as well as the Mzilikazi Art and Craft Center. With its rich history and diverse population, Bulawayo stands out as a beacon of possibilities that the nation of Zimbabwe can be due to its ability to bring various races and tribes together. It also links the rest of the Southern African region, ensuring that traditions and cultures are maintained while interactions with other nations are maximized.